They thought I'd roll over, that I'd take my dream, my father's memory, and push it out of sight just to keep their streets pretty. But when my Jaguar burned to the ground in the dead of night, I didn't just lose a car. I lost the last thing tying me to my dad, and that's when I realized my HOA wasn't just enforcing rules. They were covering up a crime. Before I take you inside this battle of fire, lies, and HOA power plays, make sure you subscribe to HOA Karma, where stories like this always end with the truth rising and justice served. You're violating community appearance standards, she said, sliding a notice across my mailbox like a judge sliding a verdict. Her voice was dipped in honey but sharp enough to cut. This kind of vehicle invites the wrong kind of attention. You've got 72 hours to move it, or we escalate. I didn't blink, didn't flinch. I just rested my hand on the mirror, polished fender, and said, calm as a Sunday morning, that vehicle is insured for over 600 grand, and I built every inch of it myself. Her name was Trina Caldwell, vice president of the Alderey Preserve HOA. And in that tiny pause, that half beat of hesitation, I knew exactly who I was up against. Someone who lives for control, someone who mistakes a clipboard for a crown. I'm Mason Hale. I run Hale and Sons Restorations out in North Hollow. And yeah, Sons is aspirational, because my old man passed before we ever finished a car together, but I left the name to keep him close. The machine in my driveway, a 1961 Jaguar E-Type flat floor, welded bonnet. The exact car my dad used to talk about like it had a heartbeat. And when I say I built it, I mean nights spent with his cracked socket set, torque specs echoing in my head, and his voice cracking jokes about British electrics. This wasn't just metal, this was memory. So when Trina told me it clashed with the visual harmony of the block, what she was really saying was, my father's voice didn't match her decor. I didn't move the car. Instead, I left the garage door open all weekend, buffing chrome like it was therapy. Neighbors slowed their cars to stare, half jealous, half terrified of Trina's wrath. Sunday night, just after midnight, my old shepherd mix, Mabel, stood stiff at the window. Her growl told me everything, real trouble. Then I saw it, the orange bloom where the hood used to be, glass popping like popcorn, flames licking up the paint in waves. But here's the thing, there wasn't even a battery in that car yet. No ignition harness, no fuel, nothing that should have burned. Without help, I stood barefoot on the concrete, smoke in my throat, and forced myself to watch. Some losses you owe your dead to witness, the fire crew wrote, undetermined. I knew better. This was no accident. By dawn, I'd already emailed 2 people, my insurer, Noel Hart, ex-Army, now a senior investigator in high value fire claims, a man who has zero patience for fiction. And while I was still sweeping ash off my driveway, a community-wide HOA email landed in my inbox. Not sympathy, not concern, just a reminder, fire hazards and compliance, in cold Arial font. No mention of my burned car, just an implied finger pointed at me. Hours later, another notice hit my mailbox. This time with photos of my own wrecked Jaguar, timestamp bold and bright. It threatened fines if I didn't remove the hazardous remains in 48 hours. That told me everything. Trina wasn't just hiding behind rules. She was burying her own mess under paperwork, daring me to dig. My wife, Emma, told me to let it go. This neighborhood isn't worth our blood pressure, she said, but grief is heavy and anger is light. And I needed something I could lift. So I walked the loop around Alderey Preserve that night, past hedges trimmed to regulation height, past flags that weren't regulation, yet no notices, past basketball hoops on curbs, even a rotting pumpkin still wedged behind a boxwood in April. That's when it hit me. The rules weren't rules, they were tools, and in Trina's hands, tools had become weapons. The next morning, I marched into the HOA office. The receptionist slid me a half-page appeal form. No room for evidence, No space for photos, just a box for description. On my way out, I paused at the framed list of board officers, read the names like a menu. Landed on one, Treasurer Franklin Bell, quiet guy, always scribbling notes, the type who signs every check and knows where every dollar goes, the kind of man who just might hate bullies as much as I do, if someone gave him the chance. That night, I pulled my Nest footage. Smoke, sirens, chaos, not much else. But something nagged at me. The HOA cul-de-sac camera, the one they bragged about like it was Fort Knox, should have caught everything. So I filed a request. 3 hours later, I got an email from Trina herself. Unfortunately, that footage is unavailable due to a system error. Right, that's when I looped in Franklin, met him at his office, slid the HOA own system error email across his desk. His eyes narrowed, jaw clenched. Turns out, Franklin had his own suspicions, missing funds, sloppy cover-ups. He'd been looking for a reason to push back. I'd just handed him one. Together, we pulled records. Franklin had access to board invoices, security contracts, and maintenance logs. Buried in the files, a service invoice for the cul-de-sac cameras, dated the night after my car burned. Somebody paid extra to wipe the system clean. No guesses who signed that check. Trina Caldwell. I gave Noel, my investigator friend, every shred of evidence. Chemical burn patterns, wiped footage, falsified invoices. Within 2 weeks, my insurance company launched a full-blown fraud investigation, naming Trina and the HOA board. Neighbors who once gave me sigh. I started whispering in driveways. Then whispering turned to shouting at the next HOA meeting. And when Franklin stepped up with financial records, Trina didn't just lose her position. She lost everything. Insurance fraud, arson, abuse of power. She was led out of the meeting in handcuffs, the same silver Audi parked by the curb waiting for a tow. And me, I had a driveway full of ash, but I also had something new, silence. Peace and the knowledge that my father's memory wasn't buried under HOA politics. Because when you fight bullies with their own weapons, they don't just stumble, they fall. That's how my Jaguar turned from a symbol of loss into a weapon of justice. If you believe HOA like this need to be exposed, make sure you subscribe to HOA Carmel, where every story shows that control, corruption, and arrogance always meet their match, because in the end, the truth always wins.